Cullen live in 1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
I think we're almost here. I'm being told I'm on. Well, we'll see about that. Good morning. It's a dreary Monday. What else is new? And it is October 15th. And I have a guest off the bat. I've just been talking to him. We're in for an interesting conversation, I can tell you that. My guest is a busy man, but he's taken a little time out of his day to talk to us about an event that's coming up, but more important, what that event addresses. And these are the kinds of social issues that so often get somehow pushed to the back, and they've been pushed to the back certainly in our presidential contest, I would argue. My guest is the president of an organization called the Pennsylvania Interfaith Impact.
There you go.
I got it.
You got it.
Interfaith Impact. I like that. Network, right?
Uh-huh.
PIIN. And this is, I mean, I don't know that your profile is as big as it needs to be, and I'm sure is getting, because I really didn't know what PIIN was. And then I see it's the largest diverse, both in terms of religion, race, everything, social action kind of group in the state?
We're a grassroots organization that...
I'm going to ask you to pull up a little bit, even though I know you have a booming pastor kind of voice.
You know,
did I even say your name? Did I?
You may have.
I just says I may have. No. I just realized, I know him.
Remember my name.
You mean
what I do.
No. And you know what else, Reverend? I'm going to say your name, but you need to pull your chair closer to me. Okay. Not that I'm getting fresh, but we want to get you on that screen.
Okay, so, I can do that.
Okay. Reverend Richard Freeman. Mm-hmm. Do I have to say the junior? Is it junior?
I'm a senior.
You're the senior.
I'm the senior.
You got a junior.
I got a junior. I indeed do.
Okay.
But what we do at PIIN, we are, I think, and I think arguably, one of the most diverse groups in the city of Pittsburgh. We have an amalgamation of people across all faith traditions. I include atheists, I include Christians, I include Jews, Muslims, Unitarians, Presbyterians, Baptists. Everybody's at the table. But not only are there diverse religious traditions, but we are diverse in color. There are white people, there are black people, there are brown people, there are yellow people. They all are there. And the other piece of the story is, frankly, we're from all over the world. We have people from Pakistan. We have people from Nigeria. We have people from all over Yentsville. That's a part of us. So we do a great work, and I thoroughly enjoy what we get to do. The work is daunting. We firmly believe we'll never be out of work. Because we just know that culturally humanity demands that we speak to justice perpetually. So it's a great work.
Okay, I want to flesh you out a little. This is a very busy guy, as I mentioned. He is the pastor of a church in Braddock.
That's correct, the Resurrection Baptist Church.
Okay.
Yes.
And you are the, I'm not sure you're at the top of pastoral care at Children's Hospital.
That's correct. I manage the pastoral care department. They've been there 13 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And, as I said, he's president of this Pennsylvania Interfaith Impact Network that really, sometimes you hear of these groups and you think, they get around, they sit around, they yap, they talk, nothing happens.
Yeah.
That's
not us. Frankly, if we can't affect change, we don't do. We are very organized in terms of how we do our work. We believe problems are perpetual, so we don't use the term problems. We use the term issues. Issues are clear understandings of a situation that we can change. Problems you can't always change. In my faith tradition, Jesus Christ said, the poor you will have with you always. I still believe that's true. But we can impact the systems that create poverty. When we talk about jobs in the economy, which is one of our major issues we'll be addressing, the Allegheny Alcosan has almost a multi-billion-dollar project that they must undergo because of our sewer problems. Well, we need to speak to that to the degree that, A, we address the sewer problem, but also we address it in a way that builds the families and the fabric of Western Pennsylvania. If we don't, then all we will have is a big old tunnel underground where they store water, and then when the weather gets warm, they'll bail it back out.
Wait a minute. Now you gotta walk me back here, because when you're talking sewers, and then you get into sewers impacting families in Pittsburgh,
jobs. If you think about it in a very serious sense, there are some projections to it being a $2 billion to $6 billion project. This impacts over 83 communities in Western Pennsylvania. Now, the preliminary plan on the table right now is literally to build 2 big tunnels about the size of what we did to go from Gateway Center over to the stadiums and the casino, and literally pump the water in there until it gets nice and warm, and then we pump it back out and we'll treat it. Well, we believe there's a green answer to that, as well as a brown answer. How do we do that? Well, we'll start simply by let's do some things to keep the water from getting into the system. Let's harvest the water. Let's build green spaces that absorb that groundwater before it ever gets into the system. That is a green way to do it. And ultimately, we believe that creates jobs.
Oh, gee whiz. Seems to me, though, Alcosan already came out with their plan. I didn't see anything green in there.
You're right. That's why we're still fighting with them.
At this stage in the process, do you have
their plan, although it is a plan, it is a preliminary plan. Yeah. We are working feverishly with County Executive Rich Fitzgerald to partner with us to craft a better answer. Rather than do what Alcosan is proposing, we're crafting a better answer.
Now, you mentioned Fitzgerald. Mm-hmm. What's interesting to me is you've got a big meeting coming up Thursday.
Correct.
Thursday night.
The 18th.
And he will be there. Yeah. Fitzgerald's going to be there. Yep. Congressman Doyle's going to be there. A whole bunch of these politicians are going to be there. Mm-hmm. This is interesting. You call a meeting and all these guys come. I got a list of all the people who are coming. So that bespeaks a measure of power.
Well, I think we are a powerful entity. We believe in building power. And at the end of the day, we're a nonpartisan organization. We've invited every candidate, regardless of political affiliation. Right. Every incumbent we've invited. Many have chosen to say, no, we're not coming. And I think that's much to their dismay. I think there's a wonderful opportunity to speak. We believe, I'm hoping we're going to put at least 1,800 people in that room. You get to speak to 1,800 of your constituents and talk about some of the things, hear from us, what we want to do.
Well, they'd be foolish not to show up, since it's pretty hard for them to gather a crowd like that.
That's correct.
And by the way, you're all invited. You
Absolutely.
can be part of that 1,800. This
Absolutely.
is open to the public. It is at Rodef
Shalom Synagogue. It's on
Fifth Avenue.
We start promptly at 7 o'clock. We will end promptly at 8:30. The doors are open at 6:15. Our choir will begin music at about 6:45. You will see democracy in action. Our theme this year is Fire, Faith, Rekindling Democracy and Community.
So that'll be something pretty impressive. So here you'll be in a synagogue. there'll be Muslims there. There'll be evangelical Christians there. There'll be black people there and white people there, and everybody essentially coming together as a community.
Correct.
That's powerful.
That's a critical piece. Democracy demands that the community comes together, and unfortunately, we've seen too much divisiveness and not really addressing the issues that are germane to the community. We talk about a whole lot of stuff, but when we really get to the nitty-gritty of it, think about transit in our community. Okay, the reality is part of our work and the work of Fitzgerald and even the governor on this case help avert another 35% cut in the transit system.
But they do this every. I mean, there's a deja vu thing that goes on where you terrorize an entire segment of the population.
I like the word. It is a terroristic attack. And our argument, which will be one of the issues we'll be talking to the elected officials, we are asking them, demanding that we come and craft a way to find a dedicated funding stream so that the lifeblood of many people are not held hostage to the politicos anymore. The reality is jobs are around Pittsburgh, but if you can't get to them, you're destined not to be unemployed. A small story from my reality. I have a family member who moved here, living with us in Mount Lebanon. A job opened up literally in North Hills at Pasadena Hospital. No buses. So we had to get a car. Now, we have the wherewithal to help in that process, but I think about the multitude, literally,
truly,
hundreds of thousands in Pittsburgh who don't have that latitude. They're locked out of the economic piece.
Right.
So we're arguing that transit is a justice issue as well.
Okay, so you're going to talk about sewers?
Yep.
My gosh, sewers.
Not very romantic, is it?
No, it doesn't seem like it, but as you say, we're talking billions.
Sure.
That means jobs, and you want to do it in an intelligent way now that we do know about these greener ways.
Absolutely. All right, when you think about the reality in the summer, how many days of the year during the summer, there is an advisory that people cannot use the rivers that we are so proud of. Why? Because literally raw sewage is floating in the Allegheny River. Now, the imagery of that alone is staggering.
Yeah,
you know, you got your motorboat. You go out and want to do jet skiing or water skiing. Don't get in that water. Think about that.
Yeah, well, yeah.
And that's the reality.
Yeah.
So we've got to do something better to make sure those things aren't happening. The rivers are an economic lifeblood for us. Well, there's ways we can capitalize tremendously on our rivers if they are more usable. There are many areas to attack on the issue of the clean rivers.
Okay, so you wanna go after Alcosan a bit. You wanna talk transit. What? And I understand, and this is a no-brainer, that education is a big.
It's huge.
Huge.
It's the foundation for it all. You and I were talking off here about the reality of the new prison industrial complex. Most people don't appreciate the fact prisons are built in the Commonwealth and around the country based on the third grade failure rate of kids on math and reading. If you're not reading at competency at that point with a 70% correlation, they know that child's going to end up in prison. And so we build prisons based on third grade failure rates.
That is so sick.
It is sick. And when you think about it from the context of an imprisonment costing in a neighborhood anywhere from $35,000 to $60,000 a year to keep someone incarcerated.
Can you imagine doing that for education?
If we put $60,000 per kid in education, we would take over Harvard, frankly.
Oh,
but I would argue, from a justice perspective, we can do better with our resources if it demands that we share the burden and put an extra $2,000 on a kid. $2,000 spent over 12 years is only $36,000. That's less than 1 year keeping them in prison.
But here's the problem. People don't pay attention. Politicians know that, and so it takes a politician with some courage, I would guess.
Chutzpah.
Chutzpah.
Yeah.
Chutzpah to attempt to educate the population about that.
Right.
That's pretty simple math.
Well, the truth of the matter, Lynn, is that's why we work in organized communities of faith. All of our faith traditions speak to issues of justice. And unfortunately, and I my own personal critique is I had said this to my congregation. I said, "You've made me lazy." And they looked at me, "Pastor, how do we do that?" I said, "You made me, you get great response when I talk eschatologically, the sweet by and by. When I talk about Christ delivering us to heaven, you get very excited.
They like that.
Oh, they get excited about that. And if I like getting people excited, I'll just talk about going to heaven. But the truth of the matter is that the same Christ that I serve also said, "Thy kingdom come, when? Now." So we have to do some kingdom improvement issues right now. And so we need to, in all of our faith traditions, whether it's an imam, whether it's a rabbi, whether it's a pastor, we need to be speaking to the issues of justice in a very palpable way. And if we don't, to use the words of Jeremiah, right, the chickens do come home to roost.
Wow. You're a bit of a provocateur, aren't you?
I have to. I mean, the truth of the matter is, Lynn, you and I talked about my grandson. Bubba, it's got to change. My grandson.
Well, let's back up and tell that story. We were telling that you told me, So how did you get into being
a dear friend of mine,
an activist, essentially?
Well, a dear friend of mine who is the former president of PIIN, Reverend John Welch. John is a dear friend of mine, and he's probably been pushing me for like 7 years. Richard, you need to get involved in PIIN. I said, "Man, get out of here. I ain't got time. I got too much things on my plate. I'm not engaged." And he kept pressing lovingly, not obnoxious. And he invited me. PIIN, we produce, even now, we have local trainings. And he said, "Here's a come and see. Come and see what we're talking about." And I got impressed. I came to see, and I was impressed with what organizing looked like. And shortly thereafter, my youngest son and his wife told we were going to have a baby. And when I looked at him, I'll never forget it. I drove back. My daughter, the day he was born, my daughter graduated from Syracuse with her master's degree. And she said, "Dad, we're not hanging around here. We're going back to see my nephew." And we drove back to Pittsburgh, went to McGee. And I held my grandbaby in my arms. And my story, Lynn, is my mom and dad never saw a grandchild. My mom was dead at 38, my dad at 41. So nobody ever in my family, my brother died at 38, never saw a grandchild. God blessed me to see my grandchild. And I held him in my arms, and I looked at him and I said, "It's got to be different for him."
And I was saying, what a powerful little boy. He wasn't even a day old, and he took this 6'5" guy,
270 pounds dude,
and turned him into a whole different
trajectory of my life. The truth of the matter is we've got to make a difference. And I argue anytime I get a bully pulpit, I tell everybody, every one of you have a Bubba in your life. Okay, whether you gave birth to them, whether it's your niece, your nephew, everybody's got a Bubba, okay? And you've got to roll up your sleeve to make a difference. No, I'm not saying that you're in the front line of every argument, but think in your heart, there is an issue that galvanizes you and makes you angry enough to go talk to a politician, to talk to your religious leaders and say, "We are engaged on this issue," okay? Look how diverse our issues we're going to be dealing with. Transit, education, sewer. Those are very diverse issues.
Yes.
And guess what? We are in the North Hills. We are in the South Hills. We are in the core of the city of Pittsburgh. We're in the East End.
So all of these divisions, I'm thinking, I'm always making snide remarks about suburbanites. Sorry, you're essentially
I'm
one
of
too.
those.
Suburbanites. And you think of people assume that Jews and Muslims would not be sitting at the same table. Suburbanites and white evangelicals and a liberal Jew and a Muslim.
Yeah.
And your organization brings all these people together. And I want to underscore that you also said atheists because this is interfaith. It's right there in the title.
Sure.
But what you want are people. Anybody can join. You want people who want to
We're talking people who are connected to organizations, and not all of them are church organizations.
Okay.
Many of our partners are not church organizations. We do great work with our union. The union movement here. We do work with the Sierra Club, other entities that are not, quote, faith-based, but people get to use their sense of justice to affect change. And so we bring them all together, and on those things we disagree, we simply agree not to fight about it.
So you're bringing all these politicians together on Thursday night, and I understand what you ask them to make a pledge. How does that work?
It doesn't just bring them in the room and we just pop them in the eye and say, do this. It is negotiated. We talk in advance. We have dialogue. We have one-on-one conversations. These are the issues we want to happen. And we literally, by the time they get there Thursday night, we've negotiated that this is what you've agreed to do. And we want to show that to the public, that your elected officials are on board with the things and the issues that are germane to you. And so we're looking to continue to build our base and build our power out of the central core of Pittsburgh so that we can say that in a more broader context.
So is Rich Fitzgerald going to, on Thursday night, say that he's on your side on this Alcosan thing?
Absolutely.
He is?
He is. He is. We've talked to him. Rich Fitzgerald is committed to the same, on this issue, to the same things we are. He wants the best utilization of close to $2 to $6 billion. He wants it to be used most effectively. He doesn't want the sewers to continue to become a perpetual problem. He doesn't want to just dig a hole and say, oh, well, there it is. No, that's the kind of work that we have to do in organizing to make sure that the issues that we believe in are addressed most effectively. Will we always agree? No. Part of our mantra is we don't have perpetual friends nor perpetual enemies. There'll be days when maybe that Rich Fitzgerald and I won't agree. And I'll say to Rich, I don't agree with you on that one. On those issues where we do agree, we agree. There are issues where Governor Corbett and Governor, I don't agree with you. And others, Governor, we agree. The work that his commission on transit, we agree with him on that. We simply want him to do it.
So you believe in keeping doors open?
Absolutely.
And communication open. You must just want us. I was going to say pull your hair out, but I guess you don't have it.
I don't have much. I don't have much hair.
Well, if you had hair, you would want to pull your hair out looking at how Washington is working.
It's incredible.
Not working.
It's sad. It's sad. And what really is most devastating is that really, we agree on more things than we disagree on. But politicians have made it a career on accentuating those things that we disagree on and using them as a ploy for their own agenda. Let's make no mistake, politics is big money. And I've argued very seriously, it's become a blood sport. It's like gladiators in the ring, and they're trying to bloody each other and take the office or the sword. The truth of the matter is, none of that helps you and I. None of that helps the issues that are germane to us.
Well, media exacerbate that. And would you ever consider taking on media as if media is the messenger and they like a fight? They don't want to look at they aren't going to lead the news with a bunch of people sitting around talking to each other. They want to lead the news with a bunch of people saying nasty things about you. Can you imagine PIIN ever
taking on the media?
Yeah.
I take on the politicians because if they don't fight, you don't show up. So get out of the fighting ring, Mr.
I see. Okay.
Okay. That's the trajectory I would love to take, because I understand that media has a responsibility to sell. I used to be a former salesman. That's what I did for 13 years of my life before God called me into ministry. I understand the need to sell. I don't begrudge anyone selling. My challenge is, are you a catalyst for giving them the wrong product? Okay? And our politicians have the capacity not to give the wrong product. They have the capacity. I wonder how many media outlets are going to be at the Fire Faith PIIN public action.
You suspect not many.
I suspect not many.
Yeah.
Okay? Because it is a positive. It is a very good thing. And so I'll throw that out as a challenge to the
You're
media.
saying you might have, you're thinking you might have as many as 1,800 people?
Last year we had 1,200 people in the room at Road of Shalom.
And you have grown since then. I know you have.
We're hoping to put 1,800 in the room.
Okay.
That's my number.
1,800
people in the room.
These politicians extracting pledges from them, and you're thinking media won't show. Okay.
That's a challenge.
That's
I throw
a
it out there.
challenge.
You're welcome. Anyone who wants to be there to cover this very powerful demonstration of democracy in action, we welcome you to be at Road of Shalom on the 18th. I think it's a story that needs to be told in Pennsylvania. And notice I didn't just say Pittsburgh. It needs to be told in Pennsylvania, I think, indeed, the whole country. Because when communities of faith come together around issues of justice, it is transformative. We are part of the Gamaliel Foundation. We're affiliated with them. There are multiple projects all over the country that are doing very similar actions. Guess what? No one talks about it. Okay? It's quiet. Why? Because we don't raise the proverbial hell, burning down walls and all that. We are active, yes, but we're not destructive. We are very sincere about the issues that are important to us.
We were also talking earlier about faith and politics. And I see, the way Christianity especially has gotten into our politics, I frankly don't like what I see. And yet your faith is what, in many respects, gets you into this kind of work. How do you see religion and politics working well together, as opposed to the sort of ugliness that I see coming from
I think the answer.
many
I think the answer, Lynn, is rooted in the reality that I can never, and I will never submit to the temptation of wanting to impose my faith-based views on the populace. That's the challenge. It is very intoxicating to say, I believe in the sanctity of life, so therefore I want to impose that on everyone, so abortion is now illegal. I go, excuse me, I believe that. I believe in the sanctity of life, but it is informed by my faith. And because it is my faith, I will never seek to impose that on others. And so I said to you before, and I'll say again, those who want to take their issues of faith and codify them as issues of law, I don't think they're much different than the Taliban. And I know that's a provocative statement, but I believe it with all my heart. When you become trying to establish a theocratic state based on your particular views, frankly, you are contrary to the Constitution of the United States about the anti-establishment clause. When your faith tells you laws should be based on your faith, that's the anti-establishment law.
That's right.
So get off it. I simply say live it. If you believe that's what your scripture teaches you, live it. And in your congregations, teach it. And encourage those of them in your congregation to live it as well. But please don't go outside your congregation and tell you got to live it even though you don't believe the same thing I believe about my God. Simple for me.
Gee whiz. Hey, I'm going to come to your church someday. You're wonderful. It's been such a pleasure,
it's a pleasure
meeting
to be with you.
And mostly we want you to be maybe one of those 1,800 people just stuffing Road of Shalom on Thursday night at, you said?
We start promptly at 7 o'clock, but the doors open at 6:15.
Okay.
So we ask you to be there. There's parking available. CMU has graciously worked with us. Their surface lot on Forbes and Morewood is available to us. Their garage at Forbes and Beeler is available to us.
That's right, and it's just a one long block walk from there. But
to there. And the city has issued us variances, so you can park on both sides of the street.
Oh, my.
So no excuse.
So if you happen to be driving down Fifth Avenue on Thursday night at about 7:30 or 8, and you're thinking, what's going on here? Well, what's going on is something so positive, and it's titled Fire of Faith, Rekindling Democracy and Community. You know, you and I, we talk a lot. Yap, 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 yap. These guys talk, but they do. And I'm just impressed as all get out. And
well, thank you.
Thank you. And I hope this is a marvelous turnout. And I also hope Bubba lives in a world that is wondrous and one that we cannot imagine.
Me too. And as the old folk would say, I can then rest my head in peace.
Indeed.
When my day comes.
Reverend Richard Freeman, Senior. Senior. We'll take a break and be right back.
Stick around for more with Lynn Cullen Live after this.
In a world where the GOP presidential campaign was mind-numbingly long,
on next election day, you can say no to hope and change and choose a better way.
And the president revealed his true intentions.
If I tax each rich man, oh Solyndra, I could lend you all the cash.
Isn't it nice to know that you can laugh at all of them? Come see the Capitol Steps.
November 4th at the Byham Theater. Tickets on sale at trustarts.org and 412-456-6666.
Go to bergbargains.com for great deals on tickets to the Science Center, City Theater, History Museum, Carnegie Museum, and the top Halloween attractions in Pittsburgh. This week, get discounts on gift cards from Little Bangkok and the Strip, Olive Garden, and Nordstrom's. Bergbargains.com. Local deals, local merchants. Bergbargains.com.
Now, it's back to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com.
Oh, okay. Wow. Isn't that a wondrous human being? Wow. So just remember that. Be there, be square, Road F, 7 p.m. Get there at 6:15 to get a seat, I guess. Okay, you guys. Before we get into much of what I do want to talk about, I want to note, obviously, the passing of Arlen Specter. What a complicated guy he was. And despite the fact that many times in my career, I so wanted to wring his neck, and I on more than one occasion said, I will never vote for him again. He was the Republican I voted for. I will never vote for him again. And then I would. Because, this guy was an effective guy. He was smart. He figured in so many. Let me tell you something. In fact, I don't know that we would have had the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, if Specter hadn't voted for it. So this one man who was apparently very difficult to work for, snarling Arlen, it is true, his staff always looked harried and frightened. They did. But he was, I always thought, a delightful person to talk to, mostly because he was smart and he was funny. I'll miss him. And I want to really take issue with the Post-Gazette today. First of all, Mackenzie Carpenter wrote the obituary. It is a beaut. It is beautifully done. Just beautifully done. But the headline, I think, is an outrage. Can you see that? Crafty senator. Crafty senator who served Pennsylvania for 5 terms. The first word in that headline is crafty. Now I ask you, is crafty a compliment or is crafty a pejorative? I will tell you that crafty is without a doubt a pejorative. And the totality of this man's public service was so immense that a pejorative adjective in front of senator is, I think, despicable. I really do. Crafty is one step away from smarmy. Crafty is one step away from the kind of adjectives that are stereotypically applied to Jews. And Senator Specter was a Jew. Crafty senator. It is not a compliment. It is an insult. There are other ways of saying that he played the political game with relish and with great skill. But of all the adjectives in the English language, and God knows there are hundreds of thousands probably, crafty. Shame on you, PG. Shame on you. And on top of it, the picture. They have a picture of him looking like, with lit from below to make him look like some, again, sinister. He looks scary and sinister. I take offense. I take offense. So after I read the beautiful obituary, beautiful and educational, informative, and gets it just right that Mackenzie Carpenter wrote, I then checked out the New York Times obituary, and it too was very extensive, but it had some interesting fact in it. When speaking about how Arlen Specter derailed the Bork nomination for the Supreme Court, here again, took on his own party and kept this jurist off the Supreme Court, a jurist that would make Antonin Scalia look like a commie. Specter, the power of his questioning, his intellect, everything, he turned the tide. Bork did not get through. His own party wanted to destroy him for that. Is this crafty or is this courageous? But here's the interesting thing. In the New York Times obit, Bork, apparently, after Specter had done him in, chose a word to describe the senator who kept him off the Supreme Court. And it was Robert Bork who used the word crafty. I thought, wow. Robert Bork called him crafty. And that only buttresses my case for shame on you, Post-Gazette, for calling him crafty. Bork knew it was a pejorative. Bork, who had reason to call him much stronger stuff than crafty. So, speaking of Bork, by the way, when you know these people, when you meet them personally, one-on-one, I got to tell you, this is another reason for why you should sit down with people with whom you disagree. because they're human then. And you might find yourself a bit disconcerted by the fact that somebody you loathed, you kind of like. And what happens when we refuse to talk to people who disagree with us or who are on the other side of some question or issue is that we can hate them. We can loathe them. It is so easy to do that. And when you sit together, it's harder. You see they're human. You share a laugh. You relax. Some of that negativity starts, and guess what? Then you start talking. And you might find common ground if you start talking. They used to say back in the day that Republicans and Democrats would, they'd socialize together. They'd have dinner together. They'd have lunch together. They'd talk. They knew each other as human beings. They knew about each other's families. You cannot demonize somebody. You cannot hate somebody who you know to be a fellow human being. I'm sorry, I'm thinking of what Reverend Freeman was talking about. And it's so easy for all of us, and we've all done it. Oh, God, I hate him. Assuming the most evil intentions of another person simply because they have a different view of the world. That is so lazy of us. It's so wrong. And it so gets in the way of getting any forward progress, anything moving done. So when I met Robert Bork, it was just like Specter. I didn't think I'd like Specter. I adored him. Bork? Ugh! Ugh! That's what I'm thinking. Ugh! Ugh! Bork? I said to my producer, you booked Bork? Ah, jeez! And so there I sat across the table from Robert Bork for an hour. And he was delightful. He was funny. There was almost something cute about him. We were having so much fun talking to each other, even though he knew where I was coming from. I certainly knew where he was coming from. But leaving all that aside, I liked the man. And I could tell he liked me too. And we laughed and we talked. Wouldn't things be better if we allowed ourselves to acknowledge that the people on the other side of the political divide were potentially likable? Were, believe it or not, human beings who loved their children? It would make the world better, but it would make our lives maybe a little more difficult because it is so comforting to only speak to people who agree with you. It's so much easier to do that. Got some emails here. Ray. Oh, Ray's quoting from the Bible for us. Okay. The New International Version of, I guess, the New Testament, right? James 5, verses 1 through 6. I shall read. Now listen, you rich people. Weep and wail because of the misery that is coming on you. Hey, Christians, this is your Bible speaking, okay? Your wealth has rotted, and moths have eaten your clothes. Your gold and silver are corroded. Their corrosion will testify against you and eat your flesh like fire. You have hoarded wealth in the last days. Look, The wages you failed to pay the workers who mowed your fields are crying out against you. The cries of the harvesters have reached the ears of the Lord Almighty. You have lived on earth in luxury and self-indulgence. You have fattened yourselves in the day of slaughter. You have condemned and murdered the innocent one who was not opposing you.
What was that?
That is the New International Version. That's all it says. It's obviously from the Bible, James 5, 1 through 6. Wow. Thank you for that, Ray. If you have more information that Jess, are you going to post that? We're going to post that because that's some powerful stuff. I have a call. Okay. Hello. Hello. Turn your...
Hello?
Hi.
Hi, Lynn.
Hi.
I wanted to ask you a question. This thing with the Koch brothers and his CEO who's telling their employees that they're going to lay off if Obama gets in, isn't there some kind of law? I mean, it's almost like you're...
It's almost like you're conspiring, right? To hurt the country for your own political purposes, right? Are you talking about the guy who's saying he's going to, if Obama wins, he's going to have to lay off a bunch of people? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I heard the Koch brothers did a similar thing.
Well, a lot of workers, I mean, a lot of bosses are saying this to their employees. It's disgusting. And,
it's disgusting.
Actually, there's a Koch brother who, one of his higher-up employees is, I think, suing him and charging that he was essentially kidnapped.
Oh, wow.
Kidnapped for 2 days and browbeaten and threatened because he did not agree, or he was saying that something they wanted to do was against the law. I don't know. Watch that story. I can't even remember where I read something about it, but that's fascinating too. So, hey, thanks. Appreciate the call.
Okay, thank you. Have a good day.
Bye. And Ray, thank you. I couldn't think of the word. And Ray, too, has the word that could be applied to Arlen Specter that is not a pejorative. And that is adroit. Adroit. Adroit senator who served Pennsylvania for 5 terms. PG, that would be a lot better. And Ray says, I miss Republicans like him. Yeah, well, like the dodo bird. Chuck writes, in regard to Crafty, Lynn, I agree. I did a double take on the PG's headline this morning. When I see the word crafty, it has a negative connotation to me. It's like shyster. It is absolutely outrageous. And the photo is terrible too. Is this the largely liberal Post-Gazette taking a final swipe at Republican-turned-Democrat? I don't know what it is. You know what I think? I think when something like this happens, it's just people not doing their job. Whoever wrote the headline thought that was a fine word. Whoever then passes on it, the editor, and I don't know how many people saw that headline before it went to print. But I would think that if you took exception, I took exception, that we are looking at probably hundreds or thousands of people who took exception. And my guess would be that there'll be letters to the editor about it. I could certainly write one, but I've had my say. I would suggest somebody who doesn't have a bully pulpit like I do write some letters. It's an outrage, and he deserved better. We'll take a break.
More is on the way with Lynn Cullen Live.
Pittsburgh City Paper's annual Halloween guide is available now. Pick up one today for the most comprehensive listings of Halloween events in Western PA. plus Radio Tokyo, Mary Poppins, and News of the Weird. Pittsburgh City Paper, available at over 1,700 locations throughout Western Pennsylvania, and on the web at pghcitypaper.com, and on your smartphone at citypapermobile.com.
Hey, anybody taking advantage of all those incredible movies that are going on at the Harris Theater in Pittsburgh's lovely cultural district downtown? They're affiliated with, of course, Real Q Film Festival. That's the new name for the Pittsburgh International Lesbian and Gay Film Festival. And they've got so many amazing films, and we're just halfway in to it. So the opportunity to see some great movies is still with us all the way through till next Sunday. So we got a week full of great movies from all over the world, features, comedies, docs, shorts, all that kind of stuff. So you'll want to know what's showing and when. Very easy way to do that. Obviously, get on your computer and go to realq.org. And real is spelled like movie reel, REELQ.org. Or you can also, I believe, pick up a Pittsburgh City Paper, because we're totally into it as well, and the listings are there as well. But treat yourself. This happens once a year. They're here. They're gone. Some of them make it to the big theaters, but a lot, then you won't see them again. These are some of the best indies. Truly. Okay? Just saying.
I didn't know about chronic obstructive pulmonary disease until I took the wheel and lent my support to Drive for COPD. Help Americans take action against this leading cause of death by logging on to driveforcopd.org to learn more. I'm Nancy Cartwright, the voice of Bart Simpson, and I drive for COPD.
Have a question or an opinion? Call Lynn Cullen at 412-316-3381 or email lynn at pghcitypaper.com. Now, more with Lynn Cullen Live.
Okay, well, geez, I hope you guys saw it. I hope you saw that astonishing video display yesterday. It's amazing that such things can happen and then that we can watch them happen. And that is the plunge that Felix Baumgartner took from, how many miles up was he? 20? No, miles. 20. 20s. It was 128,100 feet up. You divide 5,280 by that, you'll come up with the answer of how many miles. Now, when I had mentioned this earlier, because I was so blown away by the fact that this guy was going to do this, they had thought they would get up to about 120,000, but got up to 128,000. And then, if you were watching it live, you saw him. He just literally whoosh, essentially swan dived headfirst out into the void. And he plunged headfirst like a rock. It was a man. I mean, it was unbelievable. Just plunging. And then it got scary, because then you could see him the whole time. These cameras are unbelievable. You could see him plunging. And then he started to go head over feet. He started tumbling. And that's not good. And you could tell from the faces, every once in a while they would cut away to the faces, there'd be a split screen of the faces in mission control. And they were concerned. Nobody was saying anything. They didn't say, uh-oh, he's tumbling. But tumbling could be all kinds of things. Tumbling could mean he's unconscious. Tumbling could mean, he ain't able to control this. And all of a sudden, that tumbling figure got control again. And wow. Now, the speed that he was going, a human being with no vehicle around him, he was going, they think, these are the preliminary numbers, 834 miles per hour. 834 miles per hour falling. Well beyond the speed of sound. And in terms of the speed of sound, no human being had ever done that before. It wasn't known whether the human body could tolerate it. Well, the human body, at least that human body, not only tolerated it, but when he landed, 9 minutes later, can you imagine plunging like that? 9 minutes later, when he landed, he touched down like a feather with his feet, standing, never crumpled to the ground. He only crumpled to the ground when he'd taken himself off his parachute, which he deployed sooner than you might have thought he would, because he did not break the record for the longest free fall. The guy who had held the altitude record before him actually still holds that, and he had a longer free fall of a minute longer. He free fell. Unbelievable. And again, to people who think this was just a stunt, it was not a stunt, because NASA is extremely interested in it and in the suit he was wearing, because this obviously allows them to reimagine possibilities for rescuing astronauts, if you can get them to a certain level where that they could, in fact, survive simply by jumping out. But it was on YouTube. It was on their website. It was on the Discovery Channel, and it broke a YouTube record by a mile of something like, I think, 9 million or 7 or 9 million people worldwide watching YouTube at the same time, watching the same thing. The highest audience watching YouTube at the same time had been 500,000 people, so blew that record away. And it was interesting to see the comments that were, people were, commenting on it and tweeting on it as it happened. A lot of them were in foreign languages, so I couldn't understand them. But one I thought was a riot. It said, "Well, that's one step for man, one giant leap for energy drink marketing." Because the whole project was underwritten by Red Bull, just so in case you didn't get that. Okay. And, excuse me. And this, excuse me. Jeez. Hang on here. Just want to. This was in the legal section of the paper today, and you might have missed it. It is unbelievable. It turns out a traffic court judge in Philadelphia has been, I guess, removed by the Court of Judicial Discipline, which involves that's like 5 or 6 other judges who sit in judgment of their own. And well, here's part of the opinion or judgment. I don't know what they call it. "We think that the public, even those members of the public who register the lowest scores on the sensitivity index, do not expect their judges to be conducting photo sessions featuring the judicial penis." What? Yeah, Jess just said, what? Okay, I go on with the opinion. We hold that a judge who intentionally grooms his penis for photography and then intentionally photographs his penis for the purpose of display to others had better remember that the photographs are in his phone lest they slip out at some inopportune time under circumstances which are likely to offend another person. Okay, here's the thing. This judge was hitting on a woman who was described as a cashier, and he was telling her that he wanted to go out with her, and he wanted to have an intimate relationship with her. And so he started showing her photos, including a photo of his mother and himself. He started with, and this is my mom and me. And here's a photo of me with Stevie Wonder. And here's a picture of my daughters. And here's my penis!
Oh my God.
When will men understand? Brett Favre, I'm talking to you. Wiener, I'm talking to you. Women are not turned on by pictures of your junk. Jeez. Oh my God. Can't make that stuff up. Okay, and then there was a unbelievable story about, you recall, Dominique Strauss-Khan, who was going to be the president of France and who was the head of the International Monetary Fund and who likes to rape hotel maids and other women. He's now facing charges in France that he's tied to a prostitution ring. And his defense, his attorney is arguing that the court is trying to, quote, criminalize lust. And Dominique Strauss-Khan is all about lust. And it goes on to talk about these dinners and parties that were held to ingratiate. If somebody wanted to ingratiate themselves with this guy, who was this extraordinary, powerful man as head of the International Monetary Fund, they would spend as much as $65,000 creating a party in which lots of people would come. They would sit around a beautiful dining room table, eat an extraordinary meal, and then an orgy would ensue. And it was known that Dominique Strauss-Khan liked as many as 3 or 4 women at a time. And I just want to say one thing about this. This is what Viagra has wrought. Because if you think a man of his age could even get it up to do 1 woman at an orgy, you're out of your mind, let alone 3 or 4, fueled by Viagra, the whole bunch of them. And get this, having sex with prostitutes in France is not a crime. Not a crime. You know what is a crime? Being the prostitute. That's despicable. God, France is such a misogynistic culture. It is so totally male-oriented. Yuck! So the Johns are fine in France. It's the prostitute who's going to be charged. All right, well, there you have it. Men and their penises to end the show. I can't help it. They're in the news all the time. All right, tomorrow, in lieu of my sister, we will have David D'Angelo of Two Political Junkies joining us for half an hour. The other half an hour, it's just you and me, baby. Okay? Have a great one.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.